as well as you should be too, Joan Collins. I mean, you never... Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. Joan, I'm going to have to call you back. I'm on. Hello, and welcome to Quarantini, Cocktails and Song with Mr. Drag. I'm your host, Mr. Drag. You know, recently I have been asked by the tens of people that watch this program, where is Carl? Well, as you all know, several weeks ago he went out to go find some toilet paper and couldn't find hide nor roll of it anywhere in Greenfield or the surrounding cities, so he set his sights further afield. You can follow his journey on _me.carl on the Instagram. Speaking of underscoring, I love a little bit of underscoring. Alexa, play non-copyrighted background music, sad, epic, and emotional. You know, you have to be very, very, very careful. Yes, yes. Okay, yes. I don't need to know who it's by. Just play it. Will you just play it, please? Please just play the underscoring. Thank you. Sometimes she can be a bit much. But you know you have to be very careful with the music that you play on these videos, because the Facebook and the Instagram will take them down in a heartbeat. I mean, just last week, the Instagram was going to take down episode 2 of Quarantini, saying that some of the music that I had in it was copyrighted and couldn't be played in Seoul, South Korea. Well, I had to remind them I don't live in Seoul and I barely even have one myself. And they agreed and then put my video back up. But we're not here to talk about my soul, are we? We're here to talk about this week's theme. And since we're so close to Easter, I thought, what better theme than rising from the dead? Now, Easter is almost upon us, and many of you celebrate the aggrandizement of the cadaver of Jesus. As most of you know, I was there for the birth of Jesus. For those of you that don't, the story goes like this. It was the winter solstice white party in Jerusalem. I owned an inn, bar, restaurant, and there was a knock on my door, and I opened it up. It was a handsome gentleman, long beard, long hair, it was the style of the time, and there was a woman that I assumed was his wife, seated on a donkey, pregnant, and I feel bad for anyone who's pregnant. But I looked back at the gentleman to see what he wanted. His eyes were shifting back and forth, almost like he wasn't the father, but I wasn't about to question that. Anyway, I said, there's no room in the inn, but you can stay in the manger. The manger was the name of my after-hours club, but it was the winter solstice white party. I wasn't going to need to open it up. People would be partying everywhere. Well, long story short, baby Jesus was born in the manger. Oh, I also had some wonderful gentlemen from the Orient visiting me, and they had brought their fireworks with them, and they were lighting them up above the inn. It looked like a huge star in the sky, which attracted the attention of the shepherds, which was the former name of the Shriners. This was pre-fez. I mean, back then, if you wore a fez, you were considered someone of loose morals. I was often seen wearing a fez around town. So the shepherds came to visit, as did the 3 wise queens. Now, that was the most popular drag trio of the time. You haven't heard Hava Nagila till you've heard it sung by 3 6-foot-tall, 5-inch heel-wearing drag queens with Neapolitan wigs. Anyway, from that moment on, Jesus and I became very good friends, and I was like a mentor to him. You know, who do you think it was that convinced him to turn all of the water into wine at that wedding? I was so devastated when I heard that they killed him. You know, but we were under Roman rule back then. You know, they would crucify you for wearing your toga the wrong way. They were very strict with fashion. In fact, it was the Romans who came up with the rule no white after Jupiter Day. But, you know, I wasn't in town for it, and I returned 3 days later and found out about it, so I wanted to go pay my respects at his tomb. And while I was standing there with my flowering cactus in my hand, lo and behold, the stone rolled open, and out walked Jesus, good as new. Which brings me to the cocktail I'm going to make for you this week, called the Corpse Reviver No. 2. Now, the Corpse Reviver No. 2 is aptly named because, as you all know, Jesus had previously risen Lazarus from the dead. So technically, Lazarus was the Corpse Reviver No. 1 and Jesus was No. 2. So what you're going to need for your Corpse Reviver No. 2 is gin, Cointreau, Lillet, absinthe, and lemon juice. Now, you want to take 1 ounce each of the gin, Cointreau, Lillet, and lemon juice. Now, my boucher was not available this week to squeeze my lemons because his job was considered non-essential by some. So, my good friend Lizzo had some extra juice that she let me have. love. She's so wonderful. What you're going to do is put all of those into a shaker filled with ice, and as always, audience, shake vigorously. Yes, shake it vigorously. Yes. And then you're going to take your absinthe. Now, my absinthe is in this wonderful little atomizer that I won in a card game with Judi Dench, Joan Plowright, Eileen Atkins, and Maggie Smith. We were playing 5-card Dame. The glass this week is the coupe, and you're going to mist the coupe with your absinthe. And if the mood so strikes you, mist your mouth with it. Lovely. It's like a little licorice. I can't tell you how many times I've had a little licorice in my mouth. Now, you're going to take the contents from your shaker, pour it right into that glass. There we go. Delightful. And voila, I present the Corpse Reviver number 2. Well, as I told you, I was out front of the tomb when Jesus rose and walked out, and I'm not ashamed to say, dear audience, that he looked better than I had seen him in a long time. I mean, he was practically glowing. Oh, he had been so stressed out in the days before his death. I mean, I attended a supper that he had hosted. Didn't know it was going to be his last. But, you know, I couldn't stay very long because I had an early donkey out the next morning, and you know I'm not an early riser. Or really eat. But he did have plenty of wine. Oh, that wine was delicious, red as blood. Anyway, when I saw him walk out of the tomb, he looked so good. I was stunned. I guess I said to him, you need to tell me your routine. What skin products are you using? How has your sleep been? Oh, he said to me that he had slept like the dead and felt rejuvenated. Well, and he was wearing this beautiful hat, set back on his head a little bit. It's a round shape, it was golden in colour, shone in the sunlight. And I said, oh, Jesus, it's a wonderful bonnet you're wearing. And then I just was so inspired, I just had to break out in song, and not just a song, but a medley. Hear the bells ringing, they're ringing, that you can be born again. Hear the bells ringing, they're singing, that Christ is risen from the dead. Never saw you look quite so pretty before. Never saw you dressed quite so handsome once more. I can hardly wait to keep our date this lovely Easter morning. And my heart beat fast as I watched you walk through the stone. For in your Easter bonnet with all the frills upon it, you'll be the grandest prophet in the Easter parade. I'll be all in clover, and when they look us over, we'll be the proudest couple in the Easter parade. Near Golgotha, where they buried you, the photographers will snap us, and soon you will be in the Chachret. Oh, I could write a sonnet about your Easter bonnet and the Queen that you're taking to the Easter parade. Easter parade. Stepping out with you, Jesus, can't be wrong when I'm in the right. It's for sure Not for maybe that I'm all dressed up tonight. Stepping out with you, Jesus, can't be bad to feel so good. Never felt quite so sunny, and I keep on knocking wood. There'll be smooth sailing, 'cause I'm trimming my sails with your halo and my blue hair and matching nails. Stepping out with you, Jesus, can't be wrong when I'm in the right. Ask me when will that day be? That big day might be tonight. I want to thank you all for joining me this week on Quarantini, Cocktails and Song with Mr. Drag. I'm your host, Mr. Drag. The cocktail this week was the Corpse Reviver number 2. I want to wish you all a good weekend. Do we even have weekends anymore? But for all of you celebrating Easter this weekend, happy Easter. And for all of my Jewish friends who celebrated Passover this past week, happy Passover. As always, stay safe, stay healthy, and practice your social distancing by staying home. I hope to see you next week.